okay, we need a Discord. Like if you're in NFTs, you need Discord. And so team gathered around, and in October, I was like 2 weeks in. I launched the Discord for the community. We grew from like 0 to 35,000 in like
Whoa,
4 months.
Whoa.
that's
Yeah,
crazy.
it was fast.
Hey, how's it going? We're back with another episode of the Kickblocks podcast. My name's Nick,
And I'm Dro.
and we've got a very special guest today, Krista Gambrel, coming to us live from Austin, right, Krista?
That's right.
Cool,
Hey,
awesome.
Krista.
And yeah, Krista is an artist, community leader into tech, fashion, NFTs, and music, coming to us from Wilder World. And so we're going to be learning a lot about that project today, learning a lot about gaming, community, and just creators in general in the Web3 space. So thank you so much for joining us today, Krista.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for hopping on. How's everybody's week been, Alessandro? What have you been focusing on? I know you've been coding up a storm.
Oh yeah, I was literally coding right before we jumped on this call. I got into this space, wanting to code and also
Mhm.
learning about NFTs. So yeah, my last week has been in the weeds, just nose to the laptop. I just looked up for a breath of fresh air, and here I am. So I'm glad to be here. How are you doing, Krista? How's your weekend been?
Good. I know the feeling. I've been spending so much time trying to build my community, and every day there's never a dull moment in Web3, and so
Mm.
Yep.
there's always something to be optimized, or something to learn, or some new experience that's being had in the space, and so yeah,
Oh, that's
definitely been
awesome.
just digging in, nose to the grindstone.
Yeah, no, you said
Definitely.
you said it. There's always something going on in the Web3 space. It's every day there's something going on, and I feel like stories are popping up left and right on what the cutting edge stuff is. You spoke a little bit on it on your project. When Nick told me you were coming on, I did a little bit of research onto it, and I was like, wow, that is insane how like the scope of where it is. So I'm excited to dive into it with you later. So. Nick, how about you, man? You just got back to us, huh?
Oh yeah, so Krista, I don't know if you how much you know, but I've been traveling literally all around the world. So I just got back to New York. I was in Mexico for 3 weeks, and so it feels good to be back
Oh.
in strong Wi-Fi and water, the tap water I can drink, and it's been awesome being back home. But yeah, I mean, I think that like there's so much going on all over the world. Like there was a crypto club even in like Tulum where I was at, and so it feels like the whole world is buzzing with sort of this Web3 energy. But speaking about worlds, Krista, tell us a little bit about Wilder and the world that you guys are building.
Yeah, happily. So,
Yeah.
okay, so there's a lot to cover, but really the gist of it is Wilder World is an immersive 5D metaverse, and it's a whole new dimension of reality that we're creating. We're building on Unreal Engine 5, Ethereum, and our sister company Zero, which is
Mhm.
the platform that helps to power our decentralized marketplace and the future of our decentralized social media network, as well as uh, our collaborative working experience. And that's, I can share a little bit more about that later, but it's basically like a Discord on, a decentralized Discord
Mhm.
that metaverses can eventually use to power their working environments.
That's
So,
Mm.
cool. That's super
yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Super
that's
sick.
awesome. Yeah, when I saw it, I'm not gonna lie. Me and Nick, we were on a call. We were digging into Wilder World, and the first thing we saw that caught our eye immediately was Wyoming. And I've been saying Wyoming all day.
Welcome to Miami.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We've just been singing. I've been stuck in my head, and I love it. I love just like how you guys ran with the whole Wilder World, the W theme, and went with Wyoming. And we started looking at some of the things you've already built. The cribs, the shoes, the cars, and all that. And I was like, this is really Miami in the
Yeah, I'm like, I
metaverse.
need to move out there. Yeah.
I was like, the apartment's more expensive if I want a balcony. Holy shit!
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and so it was really cool to dive in. Yeah, no, you guys are building something massive, immersive, and so, I want to take a quick step back, and before we dive in, I want to ask you, Krista, what got you into this space? Where were you before you decided to dive into Web3, and what was the moment that you decided I'm diving in, I'm going in there?
Right. That was the point of no return, actually. But I was working in venture capital. I was working with a company called Spiro Ventures out of Redwood City. It's an incredible venture capital firm led by really incredible people. I had been there for about 2.5 years, and this was just during the height of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've taken a step back, a little bit about my background. I'm an artist. I studied at San Jose State University. My degree is sculpture and metal casting. So I'm an expert, like, I guess you could say, alchemist.
Ooh, I love that.
Hey,
So,
that's awesome.
but yeah, really the study of sculpture and shape was something that I was really passionate about. While being at San Jose State, I got really accustomed to learning about new technology. It's a great school for engineers, and so a lot of my work was blended with technology
Mm-hmm.
as an artist, and so I was always fascinated with that. I have my own jewelry company called Ende Collective, and there was just this like experience that I had during COVID, and it was actually a little bit even before COVID, but it really started to crystallize during COVID. And it was like, how do I bring my art, which is so physical in its form and so permanent, right? When you're working with metal, um, versus music, where it's a little bit more ethereal. How do I create art that transcends space and time?
Yeah.
And to me, it was like the digital realm, like the realm of the ether, is really where I wanted to start exploring. Because,
Hmm.
when you're working in venture capital and you're working in startups, you're constantly surrounded by like software and
Hmm.
these like, companies that are built off of very intangible things aside
Mm-hmm.
from like the user interface kind of experience, but you have really impactful results. And
Hmm.
so for me, that was sort of like this catalyst
Mm-hmm.
to get into a more digital space. And how could I, the question was like, how could I bring my art into a digital realm
Hmm.
while scaling up
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
applying the concepts from venture capital and tech to my creations. And so I'm actually where I met Knyck was at On Deck No Code. I was in
On
a
deck.
program and I just was like, all right, I'm going to take a step back from venture capital and I'm going to focus on product building. And so I just threw myself into this no
Hmm.
code program. It was like 11 weeks. There was like, I don't know, something like 280 people or something. Maybe it was
Yeah.
180 people in the
Yeah.
program,
Yeah.
but it was explosive and it was fun. And I ended up meeting a guy named Matty Mo. Also, he also goes by the name of the most famous artist,
Mm.
and he is a really interesting and kind of innovative thinker, and he just has a really interesting way of framing things. I ran into him on like an icebreaker conversation on in a digital room, and he was like, "Hey, why don't you come and join me and my team, and we'll build an NFT printer?" And I was like, what's an NFT? And he was like we talked for 2 seconds, and he mentioned something about blockchain and um, the future of art, and I was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So
love that.
yeah, 4 days later, we built this product called niftyprinter.com. I joined him and like four other people. We launched the product in 4 days and we pitched it to around like a series of investors. It was really just like a hackathon kind of
Mm-hmm.
experience.
Hmm.
And we ended up winning a prize for most technical builds, which was fun. And my role in it was really like, how do I help this team build a go-to-market strategy for an NFT printer,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
which was incredibly advanced for people to understand at that time, because people were
Yeah.
like, what's an NFT? How do you
Hmm.
bring an NFT into the physical realm? Like they were still early on in the arc trying to understand what an NFT was in the digital realm. And
Yeah.
so this was like where I ended up getting connected with the guys over at Wilder World. I met them on a Clubhouse,
Mm-hmm.
and or I ran into them on a Clubhouse call with Maddie Mo, talked about blockchain, liquidity, marketplaces, assets versus crypto versus DAOs. And so it was just like a whole fascinating ecosystem for me. 3-4 months later, I got picked up by another marketplace platform who invited me into lead community there. And then the guys at Wilder World found out that I had joined another team, and they were like, "Hey, what are you doing, Krista? Get over here." And so they
I
convinced
love
me
that.
to join. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's
That's so cool. I
awesome.
love how you mentioned a couple times. You're like, oh yeah, I ran into somebody in a video room, or just like bumped into somebody in a clubhouse. It feels like you're almost living in the metaverse already.
We were.
Like
Yeah.
yeah,
I was
like
totally in the, yeah.
so like for you, like what does the metaverse mean to you? Do you feel like what are you a percentage of the way there? Are you there sometimes and sometimes you're back in the real world? Like where do you think the metaverse is right now?
Yeah, I think we're currently in a metaverse, like a lo-fi metaverse experience right now, right? Where we are interfacing with our computers and a screen, and it's connecting us with people, together through space and time, and it's kind of like altering that perception in an interesting way. And so, yeah, I think during the pandemic, we also experienced a lot of people were like forced into exploring some version of a metaverse, whether that was like Twitter Spaces, Clubhouse, our program. I was putting on a lot of online experiences together with a venture firm, bringing founders together. And, you know, it opened up a whole realm of possibility when you didn't have to travel through space and time to get to to stand right next to someone else. And I think that we saw the value. That was a gift from the pandemic, because it brought people from farther away
Yeah.
closer together
Yeah,
in
no,
a
for sure.
really
Yeah.
accelerated amount of
Yeah.
time.
We had people in our program from like Africa and from Europe and South America, and we're meeting on a weekly
Yeah.
basis. And I know what you mean that like I think like during that period, I was also traveling a lot during that time, and it was also solo travel from city to city, and it felt very
Hmm.
much. And I was diving into Web3, the rabbit hole, and it felt very much like I was in the metaverse. Like all of the people that I was talking to on a daily basis were all on like Twitter Spaces, and I was doing a lot of like research, and it would be a lot of PDFs, and I was just like, wow, like this digital life is becoming even more and more important. So I definitely feel you on that. Joe, did you have a question?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just loved hearing about how, one of the things that I feel that some of the guests we've had can relate to is they were in some form an artist, creator. They had that need to want to build, and I can relate with that. Nick and I know each other from college. We used to run around and DJ and make music, and then also talk about like the latest tech that was going on, and
Yeah, yeah,
years later now we're diving into Web3, and we said, well, why don't we like do this podcast? Let's talk to the people in the space. Let's build
Hmm.
this space. And one of the great things is, onboarding, right, is kind of hard right now. And I've made a career out of explaining really complex technological systems in layman's terms to like high-end directors, VPs who don't want to listen to all that, right? And just
Hmm.
want to understand it. And so seeing that challenge that the Web3 space has in onboarding and the friction involved with getting somebody, we wanted to create something that could help people just figure it out, just ask the questions, just hang around with us and hear from people like yourself and on how they did it. Because I think a lot of the questions right now is like, for instance, you asked, what's an NFT? I remember asking that like a few months ago, a little later than most people in the world, and just that started a weekend long rabbit hole for me. Like I
Yeah.
came out the worm the next like weekend, and I was like, whoa, and my life
yeah. We're
changed.
at
Yeah, my life
Yeah.
changed.
No, totally. I remember I was actually in Brazil. So I had signed up like on a Tuesday for this project. On a Thursday, we started building. On Friday, I was already planned to travel to Brazil. Um, Actually, it was like this exact time last year that I was
wow.
like digging into this. And so I was like traveling in Brazil, and we were preparing this project. And my friend who I met, he was like, "What are you working on?" And I was like, "It's this thing called NFTs." And I was just like, he was just like, didn't like, he
Yeah.
like looked at me and then was just like, okay, like
Okay.
it didn't register fully because I was just like so excited and just saying as much as I possibly could because I was just so thrilled about what I had discovered.
Right, right. And what are you most excited about? I feel like in the Web3 space, everybody is excited about like one thing. If it's NFTs or DAOs or DeFi, or some people are just into the coins in general, and it ends up becoming like a passion project for it. And anybody like yourself who've dived into it the way you have and made a career out of it, it's got to be some like a passion project. So, what are you most excited about? You know?
That's a great question because um, it's sort of evolving
Hmm.
as I've learned more about this space, and you start to set your mind on a specific problem set. Um, early on, like before I was, before I started any learning anything about NFT, I'd already been investing in Ethereum. And, one of my friends, like in 2015, 2016, was like, shared how he'd made all this money in Ethereum and was like, "Hey, Krista, I want you to design a set of blockchain jewelry for me." And so I came up with
Mm.
an entire collection of blockchain jewelry. And I had done my research at the time to try to like pull out the essence of those concepts and turn them
Hmm.
into like a form of some sort. And so, and actually he paid me in Ethereum. He paid me like 300
Oh.
bucks in Ethereum in like 2016. So that was my first experience with blockchain, and Ethereum. Getting into like NFTs last year and really understanding one of the use cases was for the form of, for like tracking art, but really like on a much deeper level, understanding the power that blockchain gives us to track provenance, and not only provenance from like original artists, but provenance from things like everyday things that we understand and know of, but we don't actually see it being processed before our eyes. And that's like big industry. So big
Yeah.
industry is already utilizing blockchains for supply chain management. And so that's in the real world. And when we think about building metaverses, it's blockchain can be used as a tool to track supply chain management
Mhm.
or assets within the metaverse, right?
Hmm.
So we can track steel, and we can track strawberries, and we can track wood from their original place of origin using technology like
Hmm.
VeChain. We can track the diamonds. We can track uh, processing in the real world that way, but in the metaverse we track it through Ethereum, NFTs, like
Hmm.
um, through like three-dimensional assets. And so it's like that um, that those are the things I'm most excited about, because those are the things that are both tangible in real life, and
Hmm.
they help us to succeed more in business and to deliver on a promise as brands that, hey, this is the strawberry that I said it was because it's organic and I can track it with blockchain technology. Or you can use art, and you can pay a series of creators um, residuals moving forward for consecutive sales after their first initial sale. And
Right.
to me, that's really powerful.
Right. No, yeah, we spoke with an artist on one of our episodes who is releasing his music with NFTs, and that was one of the things that we were discussing is that royalties part, right? He has a family, he has a daughter that was just born, and he was talking about that's his business, that's how he makes his living
Hmm.
now, and
Hmm.
and that's so powerful, that that he can provide for his family through this space, and more and more we're seeing it. I wanna dive into now Wilder World a little bit. You talked about kind of connecting into the metaverse and everything. When I was reading, I saw the note and I got really excited about the VR and AR integration. And one of the questions I want to ask you, and this is more of like a dream question, right? Krista, how far are we from putting on a headset and being in Wilder World and being in Miami? Like, how far away from us do you think, if you were to estimate, in your in your magic globe, how far are we from putting on a headset and meeting up in Miami and just hanging out?
Yeah, that's a question we get like every day. And
I
I love
bet.
it because
Yeah.
it's like that it's the driving factor. It's the driving force behind what builds our community and what
Mhm.
funds our project.
Mhm.
Aside from just, that burning desire to complete this
Yeah.
creation and experience it for ourselves. I think where we're at right now, I'll start with where we're at. We've been developing Wilder World specifically, like the
Mhm.
5D photorealistic like environment for about a year. Um, we've been working with our sister platform, which is Zero. We've been building that for about 7 years, and so that's like the underlying platform that allows Wilder World to
Yeah.
be decentralized. And it will eventually allow other metaverses to launch and be decentralized as well. Where we're at with Wilder World right now is we are currently building the Miami Racing Loop, which is a really cool micro game that will allow people to race for pink slips. And
Whoa.
yeah, so the stakes are high.
Yeah, pink slips.
No, no, no. If somebody
Um,
steals my pink slip, I'm pulling up to his IP address. No, but that's super
Oh
cool because.
man.
Yeah, so where we're at with that right now is we are in alpha state.
Okay.
So we've onboarded about, well, I think we have about a total of 10, like
Mhm.
almost 10 people from our community, some of our closest allies that we're bringing in to
Mhm.
help support us with the product feedback loop and the alpha testing
Yeah.
and helping us to iterate on that product. And so that's, we're pretty early.
Yeah.
So
Mm,
right now, most people are going to be accessing Wilder World through their computers.
Mhm.
And I think it kind of goes to what I said earlier. Like, we have to start with where we're at and then also meet people with where they're at right now. And um, so we know that what we know now is that the computer user interface is probably the most accessible for people right now.
Absolutely.
And then as we develop our product and start refining what that experience is like, then we can iterate and optimize that experience. And I think the goal is for our company to have the racing loop accessible by end of
mhm,
year for
Mhm.
more people,
Right.
like a free roam kind of experience in Miami is
Mhm.
mhm,
probably going to be next year, or who's to say even the year after.
Cool.
So
mhm.
Yeah.
I know
That makes
we're
sense.
working pretty hard on that. We have about 120 people on the team building. So,
No,
That's so
yeah, I mean
exciting.
it all looks great when I'm checking you guys out, looking at the site. I mean it gets me excited. I feel like, I mean, we talk a little bit about some of the things we see on the marketplaces and what some projects are promising and whatnot. And I think one of the big things, right, is we'll see some projects say, they're building a metaverse or they're building something, and most of the times it's, if you do your research, they're partnering with somebody like Wilder World or like Zero to kind of build it on those platforms, right? And
Mm.
so to see something like this of this scale was pretty cool. One thing one of my next questions was just, what got you excited about Wilder World? So, you found yourself in a position where you took on a project elsewhere. They said, "Hey, Krista, what are you doing? Like, get back here, right?"
yeah.
And then you find yourself in a position where now you have to decide, right? Okay, well, how much conviction do I have in Wilder World to really, dedicate, my time? Because it sounds like you had your hand in a few different projects and everything. So, where did that conviction come from? What got you excited about Wilder World when you were deciding to go all in?
hmm Well, I originally met the Wilder World team, so Frank Wilder and Phoenix Wilder, back in 2019. I ran into them like in a real life experience, like at a sustainability conference, and we just kind of like hit it off, stayed connected through Instagram, and kind of like hyped each other. Um, Frank Wilder was a jewelry company that was launched in San Francisco and was wildly successful.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was in San Francisco and I had my jewelry company too. And so a lot of people were like, "Oh, have you heard of Frank Wilder?" And I was like, "Oh my God, these people are so dope."
Yeah.
And like, long story short, I even found out later that some of my friends were texting Frank Wilder and they're like, "Hey, have you checked out Ende Collective?" And so like
That's
we
awesome.
kind of like
Oh,
sort of
that's
knew
cool.
of each other. I probably knew more of him than he knew of me. But
Mhm.
when I ended up like seeing what they were doing on Instagram and kind of seeing that shift from like they were selling their jewelry and you could buy it using crypto. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. I would love, especially because, maybe a year or so earlier, I was designing a whole collection of crypto jewelry
Yeah.
for my friend who's like, one day you'll be able to buy ende.eth and people will directly pay you. And I was like, what is this person talking about? And then
Mhm.
fast forward, now I have ende.eth as like,
Yeah.
my ENS. And so, but anyways, I love getting into the weeds sometimes of these things, but so with Wilder World, I was just so fascinated with the way these guys spoke about the future of technology and
Mhm.
the future of the metaverse. Uh, a lot of people have a very dystopian view of what the future is going to look like, what the future of
Yeah.
VR is. And these guys were like the opposite. They had this protopian view of building a metaverse that's 5D, focused on mindfulness, empathy, beauty, an appreciation for art and creativity and ultimate freedom. And so when they started speaking that way, I was like, oh, this isn't scary. This is beautiful. And we actually have the opportunity right now to build a future like that. And in the metaverse, what we know is that we can actually test and experiment with things and it costs a lot less.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah.
building a metaverse is, it's $100 million project, but
Yeah.
what, you can test and prototype things very quickly and iterate using technology.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
then those things can be applied in the real world. And so,
Mm.
understanding that the metaverse can be used as a model for bringing great things back into the real world
Mhm.
for us to make the world a better place. That whole like life cycle of the metaverse was something that was so inspiring to me.
That's so interesting. Using it as a testing ground for the real world. I've actually never heard that before. That's super interesting. Um, I wanted to ask you how, like, so you're focused on the community over at Wilder World. What is the community like? How much has it grown in the past year? And what's their favorite portion? Is it the cars? Is it the clothes? Is it the pets? I just saw the pets on your page. So what's the coolest?
Oh, every day's different. But so the community, I joined Wilder World in September. The community was primarily a Telegram
Yeah.
community. That was the platform in which the community congregated. And when I joined in February or in September, it was like, okay, we need a Discord. Like if you're in NFTs, you need Discord. And so team gathered around and in October, I was like 2 weeks in. I launched the Discord for the community. We grew from like 0 to 35,000 in like
Whoa,
4 months.
Whoa.
that's
Yeah,
crazy.
it was fast and it was definitely like a rocket ship and it felt like one day was like weeks
I can
and one
imagine.
Yeah.
week was like months.
Yeah, because like
Yeah.
every hour you're gaining
Yeah.
like a huge amount of new people. That's wild.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of competition too, right? With like there's tons of Discord servers out there. There's tons of
Oh
projects that
yeah.
are really really dope and a lot of cool artists and a lot of cool technologists innovating in this space. So, yeah, the draw for our community and what the driving force is behind our community is something we call the Wilder Spirit.
Nice.
And the Wilder Spirit is what I kind of mentioned to you earlier. Is it's a knowing of goodness.
Yeah.
It's an inner knowing of empathy and kindness and
Hmm.
and an appreciation and for life and for gratitude, or gratitude for others. And so I
Mhm.
think like a lot of the people who come to our community recognize, and they've been touched by the wilder spirit. And
Yeah.
it's like it's almost spiritual in a sense.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And because when you experience kindness, or when you experience empathy and you really need it, it's really moving.
Mhm.
And what I've heard from my community is these stories of, oh, like, you know, my wife passed away. I haven't spoken to a lot of people after that. But then I showed up to your Discord and someone made me a GIF, and it like, I knew that this was my place, right? This is like a personalized gift for this one person.
Yeah.
And it touched him so much that he was like, hey, no one has ever been this kind to me online. And so I
Mhm.
think that kindness is really what draws people in. And we can't sustain that all the time, right? Like we
Mhm.
can't always
Mhm.
pretend to be happy. We can't always um,
Mhm.
exhibit pure joy and happiness, because that's not reality. But
Mhm.
when we know it and we've experienced it, we know that it exists within us. And so when we can operate and teach our community to operate from a place of kindness and thoughtfulness, then that spreads for people.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I can feel it, feel the protopian like vibe coming off of you now. Joe, I'll let you know that when I first heard about Wilder, I would jumped into a big like Twitter Spaces with all the founders and everyone, and it
Oh
feels like
shit.
that. Like this is when I was like I said before, I was on the road traveling. I'm an extrovert, so I'm used to being like around friends and like family and all the
Mhm.
time. And I was on the road for like weeks at a time, nobody really around. And this was one of the spaces, unique spaces where it felt like you could feel the warmth, you could feel the inspiration,
Mm.
that tinges of like spirituality on the edges of just feeling like you're part of like something bigger. And so I think that's like crucial to making and bringing these people from this stage to that next stage within the metaverse. I'm thinking in my head, like, are there any other metaverses that you're interested in, or like that you've seen around that you find cool? There's Wyoming, like I don't know, like, what do you have that's like cool?
Wyoming, we're like, well, it's funny because we're like, what's our next city? Is it gonna be
Yeah,
Wally, like Bali, but
yeah.
Wally? But yeah, I think that like so I admire anyone who's been building a metaverse or
Mhm.
building for the future of that experience. Um, I'm so deep into what we're doing that it's
Mhm.
really hard for me to come out and really try to explore what other projects are doing,
Yeah.
from
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that
no.
deep technical level.
No,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I
fair.
feel you on that. Like, I was thinking before about how cool it is that you guys are developing alongside the Unreal Engine, and how so much of what's going on in like hyper realistic rendering is going on that platform. Like, isn't the entire Star Wars right now being built like on Unreal? I think it's
Well,
like super cool that you guys are taking that technology and moving with it, and taking it to the next level. So I'm excited to see what can be made out of it. I think our last guest mentioned that for NFTs and for interoperability to really like survive, we need to be making things on that hyper realistic level.
Hmm.
And so I'm excited to see what you guys come out
Hmm.
with next. I'm definitely gonna try to check out these wilder pets and see what's
Yeah.
popping there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the high fidelity is something that is unlike no other experience being built out there right now. And there's a lot of differentiating factors between Wilder World and other metaverses,
Mhm.
including that photorealistic element. And also, there's decentralized and centralized platforms
Yeah.
being built. Meta is a good example of a centralized platform. uh, Wilder World, Decentraland, Sandbox, these other metaverses that are being built on
Hmm.
uh, you know in a decentralized way. I think that that's actually when we start to have the full engagement of a community, like, and we can experience DAOs, and we can experience like what a community owned um, space is actually like. And I think that's likened to what it is in the real world, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Right, right. I have a question, Chris, about the industry in general. One of the things that I've noticed in getting involved now is kind of like this price wall that exists to trying to get in and get involved early. right? Because
Mhm.
a lot of the space does see a lot of this as an investment. You know, I've been lucky to also be a part of some communities that feel, you know, like communities, and everyone's there kind of helping each other. But what we're seeing now with it coming into mainstream popularity is an influx of people just interested in the money, right? People interested in just investing. And I mean, rightfully so. Everybody wants to try to figure out a way to make it in life, and they see this as a way, right? But one of the problems that I've noticed is this creates higher prices to get in, right? So I'm playing an NFT game where to start up it's about $150, right? But if you have a PlayStation, or if not even a PlayStation, you get a free to play game on Web 2 internet like right
Mhm.
now,
Mhm.
right? And play for free like a little thing, right? Um, one of the one of the things that I'm seeing is a lot of the projects have long-term plans. You know, once we are in our 10th generation of NFTs, this should get cheaper, and we expect it to be about $50 or something like that, right?
Mhm.
And that's about a
Mhm.
decent buy-in price. But right now, it's about 150, $200. Um, if we look at the floor price of some other metaverses, you see crazy numbers for buying anything, cars, a space, and you still really can't access it. But if you know the value in it, that's why it's at that price, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Where do you see where do you see it taking the metaverse industry, the space? What do you see it taking it for it to be accessible for a larger audience from a price point of view, right?
Mhm.
So a teenager can get involved without having to ask his mom for $150 from the credit card so he can get Ethereum or Manage or whatever blockchain they're on, you know? How do you see that playing out essentially?
Mhm. Well, what we know is that when when we build cutting edge technology that's really innovative, sometimes that the cost of that is really high. Like take you know, lithium batteries, for example,
Hmm.
in electric cars. The cost of those batteries was like insane 10 years
Hmm.
ago,
Right?
Yeah,
right?
Good point.
like
But
prohibitive.
as exactly, and so as more infrastructure is being built and there's more industry that supports the making of those things, then what that does is it brings the cost down and it makes more things more affordable. I was actually just with my family this weekend here in Austin, and my parents were telling me that um, they used to rent a VCR for like 30 or $300 or something, and they'd go and they'd rent the VCR and they'd take the VCR home with them, and you'd get like one or two movies, and you'd watch the movies, and then you'd have to rewind the tapes, and then you return back the VCR and get like maybe
That's
250
wild.
back or something, right? And
Oh, that's wild. You have to put a deposit down.
Oh,
A
the
security
you
deposit
put
deposit on
down
the
for the
VCR is crazy.
VCR.
exactly. And so when we think about how, the evolution of like VCRs to like now we're just streaming,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
yeah.
video and TV series. And so the cost of that has gone down dramatically
Hmm.
because there's more industry being built around those offerings or those products. And so I
Hmm.
see the same thing happening with the metaverse right now. There's I mean, I don't know if you guys read this fact recently, but there's trillions of dollars that are being invested in the metaverse.
Oh yeah.
That's wild.
And so when we think about what the product of that $1 trillion will be in like 5 years,
Hmm.
because it's not going to be just $1 trillion, it's going to be $1 trillion this year, and like it's
Right,
going to
right.
people are going to continue to keep investing. And then once we start building infrastructure around that to make wallets more accessible,
Yeah.
people more educated around how to utilize those wallets and feel safe and secure, um, once we have more companies who are being built on blockchains like Ethereum and some of these other chains like Solana or Tezos,
Hmm.
then we start to see the network effect, right? Where more people are involved and the cost comes down lower, and more people benefit because more people are actually involved. And so that's sort of like the how I process
Hmm.
Hmm.
the accessibility.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
I
makes
see
sense.
that. No, and I agree because I think, as a gamer my whole life, it was very hard to convince my mom to pay $250, $300 for the
Oh
console and
man.
then $60 for the game, so I can see the little teenage gamer wanting to get into NFT gaming, having a hard time asking his mom for like some of these floor prices we see with some of these NFT games, but like yeah, in the long term, it's good that they all have those plans, and I can see it playing out the same way because no way was my mom buying me some of
Yeah.
these NFTs, but
Yeah.
that's part of it, right? I love seeing like Twitter pictures and everything of people with their kids like clicking around in NFT games, and it's like that's how it
Yeah.
starts,
Yeah.
and that's where it begins. The memories begin there.
Totally. I've been hearing stories of other people. Like, actually, this is a really beautiful story. There's this guy in our community. His name is Karma,
Hmm.
and he ended up getting access to the mint list for our cribs.
Hmm.
And so he paid about $3,500 for a
Hmm.
crib, sold it within, I think, 48 hours for like $188,000. Was
Whoa.
able to
It's life
take
changing.
that, yeah, take that money. He paid off his real life house.
That's
Hmm.
And
awesome.
the beauty of his story is that um, he ended up buying his child an NFT to try to show them how it worked.
Oh, that's
And
so
he's
sweet.
like gave him a little bit of Ethereum, right? And so
Yeah.
I think like there's generational knowledge being passed down when you
Mm-hmm.
can say, okay, I figured this out. I know what's safe. Let
Hmm.
me guide my child into
Mm-hmm.
it's like offering your child a computer to learn how to code when they're 8 years old, right?
Yeah.
um, it's like that equivalent. And
Wow.
so
Yeah.
yeah, that's really powerful. And
Yeah. No,
yeah.
I honestly just got goosebumps when you said my father. I never forget. My father brought me a computer, a old Dell XPS, and he brought it to me, and when I wanted to open it up, he didn't stop me from opening it up. He was like, "Yeah, let's open the thing up." He wasn't worried about me breaking the thing. He just
Yeah.
spent all his money on it, but it
Yeah.
was him going like, "Yeah, this is important. Your curiosity in this moment is super important." I'll never
Hmm.
forget that. Like I'll never forget that memory of my dad, right, being in that apartment, opening up a computer for the first time, and 20 years later, I work in tech. I work, what I'm talking about. Those things matter, and so I love seeing and hearing those stories as well because that'll shape that kid's life for sure. And
Hmm.
this
Yeah.
project changed that man's life. And I love hearing these stories. We joke around sometimes here when we talk about like, we'll say like, yeah, you hear in your neighborhood, little Timmy became a millionaire, and you're wondering how the like how the hell he did it, but it
Yeah.
really is happening.
Yeah.
People around the world are really prospering from this. So.
Hmm.
Yeah, for
Nick,
sure, for
one of
sure.
these days we'll pick up on a whitelist, right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, one of
Yeah.
these days I'm flipping something like that
That's
for
right.
100K.
That's
Yeah, I'm
right.
gonna keep my eyes out.
The biggest thing we always promote is participation and just
Yeah.
participating in the space, just being here. Everybody says we're early, and it's hard to believe that sometimes when you hear trillions of dollars are being invested into something. But in this day and age, you are pretty early if that's the case. If everybody is jumping on it and it's still the first few years. So.
So few people still have wallets. Some few people still have NFTs. So yeah, we're still early, even if like there are huge Discord channels going on with this many people. I wanted to ask you something like a slightly more technical question, but you're in a Discord channel with 35K people. What's your favorite thing about Discord? Your favorite feature, and your feature that you wish Discord had, or something that you would fix for all the
Mm-hmm.
community managers out there?
So the thing that I would love to get from like the Discord platform is like just better analytics and better insights. I feel like their
Interesting.
insights platform is a little bit, it could definitely have a little bit
Yeah,
more to
I
offer.
felt that too. Yeah.
Yeah. What do I love? Well, I love that Discord. Um, I love the ability for you to create really interesting forms of engagement and new types of engagement. Like you can download and like install a bot so you can do giveaways, or you can do
Mm.
like polling, or like what we've recently been doing is we've installed a few bots, one to track how much time people are spending or in our voice chat conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we close down the room, we can actually pull all those usernames and the amount of time that they spent in it, and then we
Mm-hmm.
can distribute POAPs to them, which are
Oh, cool.
yeah. So
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
Just for people who might not know, could you explain what POAPs are, please?
Yeah. So POAPs are another type of NFT. They're an ERC 721, but they're on the XDAI blockchain. And so you can easily, and they're also free, up to a certain amount of participants per event. And so the thing that I love most about POAPs is it's called proof of attendance protocol. And if people participate in your events, then you can distribute a POAP to them,
Mm-hmm.
and so people kind of collect them as badges. Um, they're not so much used like on OpenSea in the trading market,
Mm-hmm.
but what we're doing at Wilder World is we're actually building a program around our POAP. So if people participate, then they can, potentially be in the running for Wild if they collect so many POAPs. And so that's really, I really love that aspect about Discord, because it makes it really flexible in that sense, and you can kind of get creative. We also have a sentiment bot, so people
Oh,
who say
cool.
thank you. We just recently, we're just testing it still, but people who say thank you and show gratitude actually get hugs. And so they end up
Mm.
saying, like, if you've shown gratitude or used some of these sentiment words, then what the bot does is like, hey, Sunshine, that's who I am in my metaverse. My name's Sunshine. They're
Yeah.
like, hey, Sunshine, you get 4 hugs. And you're
Oh,
like,
that's sweet.
what? And then people are like, I want a hug. And it's like creates
I
this
love that.
cascade of like funny conversation. But
Yeah.
so yeah, those are some of the things I love about Discord.
Cool, cool, cool. Awesome. Yeah, I definitely feel you on like sort of on the analytics, because I've gone into Discord analytics and been like, what else? Like, is there another tab?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like,
And
is this date even affecting the data? Because
exactly, exactly. And then I feel you on the extensibility of it too, because I'll be in certain Discord channels and I'll be like, wait, what is that bot that's just in here popping in, talking to people,
yeah.
certification, NFT gating for certain like
Yep.
channels. That stuff is all super cool. And it's exciting to hear that you guys are using POAPs in such like, an interesting way too. So that's super cool. I like
I
that a
What
lot.
actually have.
are Oh, I was gonna ask you guys what your favorite like experiences in Discord
Mm.
have been with, like either bots or something that was like really interesting that you haven't seen a whole lot of.
I think I saw a Discord DJ bot. Like you would just like
Ah.
tell you would just tell the bot and he would play like a new song, and it was kind of fun and cool. Like you'd just be chilling, everybody be talking, and then he'd be playing new music. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Nice.
Nice, nice. I'm trying to think now. I mean, early on, I just saw everything you can think of that every NFT project recycled, right? Like the um, giveaways were big, but also bots that kept track of how many messages you posted for whitelists, like some of the
Mm,
real basic ones. I
Hmm.
think one of the coolest Discord experiences I had was the Discord was already really engaged, and they did this scavenger hunt. But what the mods
mm,
did was they would go channel to channel, and like the most dead channel that like barely had anybody in there, they would just drop something in there, not say a thing, and then like 5 minutes later, the general channel would go, "Holy shit! Everyone look at that channel! Like there's and like everyone would go, "Oh my god!" And I just remember kind of like hanging out in the Discord talking to somebody, and then
that's
seeing it just
amazing.
blow up, and I just like that level of excitement was to me was the first time that I
Hmm.
experienced it, that just seeing. And I think that Discord had like 5,000 people online, right?
Hmm.
But those
Hmm.
Yeah,
5,000 people online all hit one channel at
Yeah.
the same time, and to
yeah.
see that was just like insane. The mod paused the checks for a second, and he said, "Okay, guys." like,
Yeah.
Hold up, yeah.
Yeah.
like, we get it, you guys are excited, but it was cool. It was cool to see like that many people
That's awesome.
really engaged all at once. So
Hmm.
that was
Hmm.
my best experience, I would think. What would you say is
100%.
as a community manager, one of the best tools you've had, not just like a software tool, but whether it be your experience or, empathy
Yeah,
or whatever it
for
is,
people
like,
who want to be community managers, what do you think?
yeah.
Yeah, what is the most important thing about them, characteristic or past experience that you've had that's prepared you for this?
Mm, that's interesting. I One thing I've learned in my experience in building community is that it's really not about me, the community manager, or
Mm,
me, the community leader. It's about facilitating space for our community to explore and engage and activate and congregate. So really, that it's not selflessness. It's actually servitude, because you're very hyper aware that like the needs of the community can't like I can't meet the needs of the community if I'm like running everything and if it's all about me. Like I have
hmm
to be a listener.
Yeah.
I have to be aware that there's going to be a lot of different types of personalities. So
hmm
there's this level of acceptance and tolerance and appreciation for being like, oh, that person, I've never thought about that thought ever in my life,
Hmm.
but that
hmm
person shared that thought, and that's an interesting perspective. And there's a level of patience I think community managers must have to
Hmm.
really serve their community in a way that's fruitful.
Yeah.
So
No,
Fair.
that definitely makes sense. That definitely makes sense.
the other
I
thing I
just
want, I can
go go
add.
go
I
go.
Go
have
ahead. No, go
one
ahead.
other thing just popped in my mind because
Yeah.
you were talking about how everybody's like running to these channels like
Yeah.
for these experiences, and one of my community members shared that this concept of collective effervescence,
Mm,
where people come together and there's so much joy and so much happiness that it just sort of like it's like a cascading feeling where that's felt amongst a lot of different people at once.
hmm
And so that to me, that whole experience of people running and getting excited in this one channel is like a form of collective effervescence.
Yeah.
And so for me as a community leader, one of my goals is to create those types of experiences, because through those experiences of celebration or ritual, you're able to build bonds with people.
hmm
And when you build bonds with people, you actually have a sense of belonging. And I think that that's what people want when they come to communities. And so that's also some other kind of aspect that like that's a tool I would say, or like some sort of like outcome that I
hmm
always try to see, like, is there an opportunity for that? Is there an opportunity to create that for my community so that we're all better off because of that one experience that we had together?
Yeah.
Mm,
No, for sure.
yeah.
Definitely feel that. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, like that's the best kind of communities that I've been a part of, where I feel like not only is the person running the organization making us better, but we're making each other better, and that it feels like
Hmm.
there's a lot of love and a lot of joy in that room.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of people rushing all to the same place at once, last week was ETH Denver, huge crypto conference out in Colorado. Did you hear about this, Krista? Did you hear about this, Joe? What did you guys think about? Did you hear anything coming out of this? I hear a lot of
I
wild stories coming on.
I have not heard of anything. I knew it was happening, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, I've just been so busy, like building, like hiring,
Hmm.
Yeah.
building, strategizing, designing. So, like, I couldn't
Wild.
even like look up from my desk to think about getting there. But I would love
Yeah.
to hear from
I'm
you
not gonna
guys.
lie. No, I was overwhelmed. I opened up YouTube and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, ETH Denver, they have
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
dozens of videos over hours long. I don't even know where to start." And I,
Yeah.
I honestly, I'm being very honest when I said I was so overwhelmed. I just like turned it off. Like
You
I closed I closed the window and I said,
too much. Too
I'm
much.
gonna wait for there to be like a highlight, like a headline or something, and just
Yeah.
dive into that video when it gets to that point, because it's just so much. But what that did tell me was it was a huge conference. There's a lot
Mm.
of speakers, there's a lot of content there to kind of dive into. What did you hear about anything, Nick?
Just a lot of funny stuff. Honestly, nothing of nothing of substance. I heard like, people saying like this is about to be the worst week for dating apps in Denver ever. Like, I heard people. I mean, I
Uh,
heard Tiesto pulled up and was DJing. Like, I think that like a lot of people are talking about, how do these crypto people? They all like to party all the time. I'm like, that's not true. Like, most of us are just like all like head down focused, and so like I don't think that's like a wider thing. But I definitely would love to go to one of these conferences. I feel like it would be so much fun. It would be good to have that like in person connection with people that you're only
yeah,
meeting like once a year, and I think it very much is
I'm
in
looking
line with like the
into
digital nomad kind of vibe.
I'm looking into NFT NYC. I really want to go this
Ooh,
year.
I
It's
would book that this year. I'm down.
like I
Yeah.
I I was definitely Krista. Have you gotten the opportunity? Did you go last year? Are you going next year? This year?
Yeah, so I was a speaker last year at NFT
Oh,
NYC. It
awesome.
was crazy. There was
Hey.
like tons of speakers. It was like anybody who like knew about NFTs could speak, but um, but
That's
I
so
ended
funny.
up going there and speaking about how NFTs and blockchains will uh, essentially disrupt social networks as we know it.
Mm.
And so I think there is some truth there. But yeah, there is a lot of interesting content. There's a lot of like meeting people and being like, oh, that's you. I only knew your PFP, or like I've only seen your ape face before, and now like I can see like you're a woman, or like like you're like much older than I thought, or much
Yeah.
younger, or like you're and then it doesn't change anything because you've just built these online
Yeah.
relationships, but you're
Mm.
just like, oh, you're human. Like I can't believe I'm talking like standing next to you. um
It's like the Twitter post. It's like Web 2 me versus Web 3 me. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah.
yeah,
about? Like it's literally that.
yeah,
You meet
yeah,
somebody and it's like, oh, this is the Web 2.
Or the
It's
thing with,
yeah.
or when people were all meeting up in person and they're all trying to like figure out like what height is everybody gonna be, and nobody has any sort of
Yeah,
idea. Like,
yeah, yeah. That's amazing.
exactly,
Uh,
exactly. I think
But
there's
we're
only other.
actually doing a big
Yeah.
activation at we're going to be doing a big activation at NFT NYC this year in
oh,
June.
Ooh, awesome.
So if you guys are anywhere near there, please let me know.
yeah.
Like you guys are invited.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
1000% trying to register to just be there. Like
Yeah.
I'm 100% gonna. I looked it up earlier to see what the price was at, and I mean after I saw, I was like, okay, like let's gotta make sure that like I'm gonna be
Are
here,
tickets on sale
right?
already?
I gotta make sure. Yeah, I think registration is open. I saw
Oh,
it.
cool. I'll definitely register.
I was gonna text you, Nick, to see if you were gonna be in the country because I don't know sometimes with you,
Okay,
but
okay, okay. I'll be
but
around.
if
Summertime,
you
I'm in New
are,
York.
we're usually New York based, right, Chris? Like we're
Yeah.
usually here
Okay.
in
All
general.
right.
So
Nice.
even if something were to happen where we couldn't go, I live like 20 minutes away from Manhattan, so
Yeah, yeah.
so like I'm in the area. And but no, definitely I'm gonna try to head out. I'm excited just to be in a space like that with that amount of people that are
Mhm,
into this topic, right? Because
mhm,
I haven't gotten that experience yet. I'm kind of I feel late to the party. The whole world says you're still early, right?
mhm.
But I saw all the videos and stuff at NYC NFT not last year, and it looked pretty cool. So I'm excited.
Joe, come on. It's
Yeah.
still 1997 in the internet.
It really,
We're
it
still
basically
early.
is. It's basically '98. Like
Yeah,
we
yeah,
haven't even
exactly,
hit
exactly, exactly.
Y2K yet. Y2K
We
might
haven't
be
even
like 2025. Something's gonna happen with the
something wild
court.
is gonna happen. And then I just wanted to cover real quickly. I know we had the OpenSea phishing scandal, so I'd be bereft if I didn't mention that happened this week. And so there's a really great thread that we'll post in the comment on the thread of, like on like our podcast notes. But Isotile, he's a account online on Twitter. He sort of explains what happened in the phishing scam. So pretty much a new smart contract was uploaded. He tried to get as many signatures as possible through a phishing emails, and they told you to sign in, message to log in, migrate to a new OpenSea smart contract. Instead, you are actually signing a private sale for 0 ETH of your NFTs to this hacker. And then he executed a smart contract on February 19th to steal these NFTs before their listings expired. And he could do that because he had your signature stored on his server. And so he mentions, make sure you're always checking what you're signing, because one click can really be the cause of a lot of issues. Over
Yeah,
$200 million in NFTs stolen. So really, word out to
Wow.
everyone that's on Oversea, that's getting, clicking on emails. Just be
yeah,
careful. Just
yeah.
watch your back. Like, this is like a space. We're still early. We're still learning. We're still growing, and so just wanted to be safe as you're making these moves in in the metaverse in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
space.
One of the things we always say here, like the jokes will come in a second, but like first of all, always make sure that you're being safe, you're doing your research, you're not just clicking through things.
Hmm.
Next, right? Next, now the jokes can come. Is it
Yeah,
is it 2002 email phishing scams? Like really? And
yeah,
I
exactly.
laughed at this because this like because it
You know,
is
if
it
they
is
don't stop,
ironic. It is
if they don't
ironic
stop
that
trying to steal my grandma's NFTs,
like I laughed at this because I just came
yeah,
out a rabbit hole on YouTube where I was
yeah,
watching a Russian hacker like hit these scam call centers and really just mess with them. So then when I saw in the headlines that there was an OpenSea email phishing thing, I was like, hold on, like it was just very interesting to me to see like we are very in a very high tech space, it feels like sometimes, and that was such a low tech like attack that worked,
yeah,
right,
yeah,
like it
yeah.
worked, and sometimes that's what it is. But I had myself a laugh. This is serious. I feel bad for everybody who lost money, but at the same time I did get a laugh out of the fact that yo, you don't even have to be high tech to in this space right now so be careful. Be
Oh
careful,
yeah.
anybody out there.
Always have
Like,
three wallets, guys. One for tomfoolery, one for interacting with wallets, and then one that's a vault that you don't use for anything else. Please just try to be safe when you're out there. Okay, cool. So I think we only have one more portion of the show. It's our WTF section, or who to follow. And so my WTF of the week is Shiny, OHH Shiny. It's a community capitalist investing in the metaverse, and is an investor, a storyteller, and a community builder with the goals to build a permissionless world and cut out the middleman, build access to DeFi for all, and empower people to own their culture, assets, and contributions. Check out his page. He has some really cool NFTs, really cool, just interesting content. So it'd be really cool for you to check him out.
What's his name? Oh, Shiny.
Oh, Shiny, yeah. OHH
Nice.
Shiny. Dro, who's yours for the week?
so I have to stay in the same trend. Last week I didn't have a person. I had buildspace.so, which
Okay.
is great. Chris, I don't know if you've ever heard of Buildspace, but essentially it's a collaborative way to learn how to code. Solidity, Solana, NFTs, anything. Essentially, you join
Nice.
in a cohort and you watch the cohort as they go through the sections of the tutorial. And if you can finish it within a week, you get an NFT from BuildSpace.
Oh
They
wow.
host every weekend. They host a live stream to kick off the cohort and kind of get it going, and they do live coding, so you can and it shows you, like 2,000 people are in section 2. So I thought that was great. I thought that was in the spirit of Web3, and the spirit of collaborating. This week I can't lie to you, I've been in a rabbit hole in Solidity's Twitter page. And Solidity's Twitter page, this is a little bit in the weeds for people, but because any developer out there, these Web3 languages, their Twitter spaces are legit. I just want to put it out there. Like, when I needed some help or I was just looking for something, the Solidity Twitter space is just at Solidity underscore LANG. That's at SOLIDITY underscore LANG. For any developers out there like myself or aspiring developers like myself, give it a follow. The threads they do sometimes are really great for just understanding where Ethereum's going, right? Because Solidity, the basis of their smart contract language, it's an infrastructure is really important. If you're in the weeds like I am sometimes, give it a follow. Just some of the articles they post too are really interesting stuff. So that was mine for the week. Krista?
Nice. So there, I came across this guy. His name is John Radoff, and he's been writing some really interesting Medium articles. He talks about like maps of the metaverse and the value chain of the metaverse, and he kind of like digs into a lot of these different concepts. About the metaverse and Web3, and I feel like he has a lot of value to bring to people who are really trying to understand the basics and foundations, but who also want to get deeper and understand at a
Mm,
more higher level, like the long term implications. So,
nice,
Nice,
yeah,
nice,
nice,
nice, nice.
great.
And how do you? What's his contact again on Twitter?
John Radoff, JON space RADOFF.
Great, great. We'll be
John
sure to
Webb.
have
Yeah, his
that in.
medium is fire.
We'll be sure to have
Cool. Awesome.
his links on in the bios for all our audience to be able to connect. Well,
Cool, cool,
Krista,
cool.
this was awesome. I loved having the chance to have a conversation with you, learning so much. I gave you a follow on Twitter, and I'm already in the Wilder World Discord as of a few hours ago when I was doing some research, but
Nice.
I am going to stay for sure because everything you were saying was really cool. Um, Knyck, you have anything?
No, thank you so much for hopping on. It was great learning about Wilder World and just your path coming into the NFT Web3 space. This was another great episode of Kickbox Podcast. I hope you guys had a great time listening to us, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks for
Peace.
joining
Thank
us,
you.
Krista.
Bye.